Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Lisa with you all the way up until 8 o'clock with Carrie. And I don't know if it's in my mind, but I think there's a resurgence in the use of drugs and, party drugs and all of that. Because to me, there was a time when drug abuse was hip, the 60s, the 70s, perhaps 80s and early 90s. And then all of a sudden, everyone got into the fitness regime. They wanted clean systems and so on. And then suddenly there's a resurgence in drug abuse. But I'm not the expert on this matter. As a matter of fact, I have with me Michelle Nasir, Deputy Director, Forensic Sciences Center. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
And am I correct in my thinking, or is it in my mind that there was a dip and then suddenly it's like everywhere you turn and there's,
There's always been drugs of abuse. There has not been a dip per se. What we're seeing is the emergence of a new type of drugs that have invaded Trinidad's market,
right,
which is moving away from the marijuana and the cocaine, and now we're seeing the party drugs, the ecstasy, the amphetamines, and even new ones that we've never seen before.
Really?
Yes, those are like catenones and ketamine and so on, and those are so dangerous because you don't know from one person to the other how they will respond.
And do we have an idea what they look like?
Yes, we've seen 21 different types of these pills, more than 7,000 of them, and they range in colors, they range in shape. So you'll find they will appeal to young persons because they have logos on them. They might have Red Bull, or they might have a fashion brand, or they might have even cartoon characters.
So there was a time they spoke of designer drugs.
That's
but
right.
This is designer drugs on steroids, if they have designer brands on them.
Designer drugs with a twist, because they're coming with ecstasy in them, but with other things that have never been seen before.
Yeah.
They're designed to mimic the effects of illegal ones. So the two combined cause an effect that we're still doing research on, and we have now seen them in Trinidad. The interesting thing is that the strength of the drugs, they call them super strong ecstasy tablets. The strength of the drugs, they have ranked them. The drugs are known internationally. And the UK, every year, a non-profit organization would test the drugs that are in the parties for that year. And they rank them by strength. Of the top 10, Trinidad has 7 of the top 10 in our market. And that's really cause for concern.
And you call them party drugs, but what age groups are you finding that are gravitating to these drugs?
We've seen them in parties. So boat cruise probably, or really large events. That's where they get popular. So any age group that is in that party scene will use them. You have to, of course, pay for it. So that might limit the persons who can actually afford the drugs. In the schools, we're not really seeing the ecstasy. We're more seeing the marijuana edibles.
I was just about to ask you if you're seeing them in the schools.
We haven't seen ecstasy among younger age children. They're more gravitating towards the candies and the cookies, things that they can make themselves.
So these are marijuana infused candies and cookies?
These are marijuana infused candies. There's no plant material in them. You cannot smell any marijuana, but they have put the extract of the marijuana into the cookies. And the strength of the marijuana is so high that they have hallucinogenic effects. They jump through windows and they confess to murders that they haven't committed and have to be hospitalized and so on. So that's really a cause for concern because they are ingesting marijuana, which is a hallucinogen.
So we're speaking about marijuana and we're also speaking about ecstasy. You mentioned ecstasy a number of times.
Yes.
Is it that these 20 different strands of drugs are all ecstasy based?
All ecstasy based. Some are mixtures. So some are pure ecstasy. Zesser, we have found, just has ecstasy only.
Tell us about this Zesser pill.
It's a pill that was submitted to us very recently. Looks like the guy from, the pill is shaped like the guy from Breaking Bad, Heisenberg. And when we tested it, it only had ecstasy. That's not it. That looks like a heart. That's not it. It's actually a pill that is in the shape of a man's face.
Okay.
And when we tested it, it only contained ecstasy. But the other pills that we have seen that have been submitted to us by the police, and we have a lot of interagency collaboration on this exercise, we have detected ecstasy plus. So there might be other things in there. And it's the other things that the public does not know about that is causing all the harmful effects, the dehydration, the going into a coma, and so on. These pills, because they're so strong, they have been linked to deaths. And that's the concern as well. Traditionally, it's called a love drug because it makes you feel so good. You can be up 4 to 6 hours, no problem. So that's why it's also used among university students when they need to study.
This is the Zesser pill.
That's the Zesser pill or the Ecstasy, any form of it. Yeah.
As far as what you're prescribing is only Ecstasy.
Only
What
Ecstasy.
makes it different from Ecstasy itself?
It is Ecstasy. So Ecstasy is the actual drug. They've added the name Zesser to the pill, right? But how much Ecstasy is in there is what is the difference between pills. Yeah. So some, as I said, they're described as being super strong because the usual dose is about 100, and we are seeing 200 and 300 in some pills.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the effect so toxic now.
And do you have an understanding as to where these drugs are coming from?
Ecstasy is usually manufactured in Europe. We have seen it being shipped from the Netherlands. We've seen from the UK, and we've seen from Germany as well. These pills are being sent in through TT Post as well as other courier services. And as a result, customs raised the flag because they were seeing these strange pills with no correct paperwork, and they raised the flag, and that's how we started investigating.
Yeah. I've brought in your colleague, Esther Best, to the conversation. You're the manager of the National Drug Council. And I just wanted to continue the conversation. I know we were going to break it up, but, you know, I think that we need to continue this conversation because I know parents are probably glued to their television sets now.
Would hope so, yes.
And probably some of them are hyperventilating, thinking that
I want them
their
to,
children are exposed or so vulnerable at this time. So Esther, tell us about the whole party situation and what you all are seeing with regard to these Zesser pills. What are some of the symptoms that parents can look out for that might have them thinking, okay, maybe I need to investigate further what's going on with my children?
Right. So let us remove the Zesser from the pills,
Okay,
please,
yes.
because the Zesser is just a marketing tool.
Right.
But this is what we've come to realize because we've seen posters for Zesser drinks,
Right.
Just Zesser drinks special. We understood that one snow cone man had Zesser snow cones on sale.
And these
So-
are legitimately branded party drinks or drug-laced?
No,
Snow
these
cone.
are really, the Zesser is, you know, there's a song that's
Yes,
connected
yes,
to Zesser.
yes.
So it's linking the song to a good time.
Okay.
Really, that's what it is. So
All
the
right.
pills are linked to a good time. And erroneously so, because they're dangerous. As Michelle has already pointed out, there are a number of different chemicals in them that are dangerous to your health.
Yes.
For parents, the critical thing is to begin to look for a change in your child's behavior. If you're seeing extras, they're extra animated. If you're seeing them, so that's with those things that are uppers.
Yes.
For downers, if you're seeing them looking very down, very like out of it,
Uncharacteristically.
uncharacteristically. So what you're looking for, it really is a change in behavior.
Yes.
Yeah. And also a change in who your children's friends are, where they are hanging out, how late and stuff they are staying out, what are some of the other kinds of things that they are doing.
Right.
So it is incumbent on parents to know and understand their children so that they are in tune with what is happening and they can recognize when something just isn't looking right.
You're saying children, but I'm also thinking
Young
their
people.
friends as well.
Yes.
You may notice a change in your friends and the way and who they want to hang out with or who they decided to no longer want to hang out with.
Right.
Correct?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
And there are key things. Most parents will know when something is wrong. They may not know exactly what it is, but they will know that something is wrong. And very often we try to give children their privacy.
Yes.
In these times, privacy has to be you have to manage that,
Yes,
you know, and you really have
Well,
to
I know
look
some
to see-
parents, mommy, who doesn't. you know,
You talk about yourself and mommy,
and
or
the
you-
grandchild, you know. And me too. I mean, I've inherited that. I guess a certain level of privacy, but managed privacy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And look, search.
Yes.
You know, if you think that something is going on, go investigate. Talk to their friends. Listen to their conversation. Now, I'm not saying get under the interceptions of Communications Act and monitor their phone calls, but certainly you're listening to the conversations that they're having, because you find out so much about what children, especially teenagers, are doing from listening to their conversations. But Lisa, I don't want us to lose sight of the edibles.
Right.
And I also don't want us to lose sight of vaping and also energy drinks.
So tell us about edibles and vaping and energy drinks.
You went into my ballpark there with the energy drinks.
Oh, yes. You drink them, stay off of them.
On occasion.
Stay off of them. They're dangerous to your health. Yes.
Completely.
They're dangerous to your health. The edibles, as Michelle mentioned, we are seeing them with extra strong THC, which is the hallucinogenic part of the marijuana.
Yes.
And so what we are extrapolating from the information that we're getting now is that this is synthetic marijuana and not plant-based marijuana that is being used.
Well, I was about to ask you, because there are those who, and you know the debate is going on about the decriminalization of marijuana and the medicinal uses of marijuana, and people swear by it. But you're saying that this is a different type of marijuana.
Right. This is the synthetic.
The synthetic marijuana.
That we're now finding in the edibles. And I want us to make a clear distinction between what is medical and what is recreational.
Right.
Medical are the cannabinoids in the marijuana. That has no hallucinogenic effect.
Good.
It is purely medical based, and the World Health Organization has recognized that and stated that clearly. The THC, which is the hallucinogenic part of the plant, is what is being used recreationally to get the high. Okay, and that is what we are concerned about.
One of the things that came up in a conversation recently was not just the marijuana itself, but in the edibles, the amount that is in, let's say, a brownie or cookie or whatever, and someone may eat the entire thing and end up in hospital.
And somebody may have one bite and still end up in hospital. And that is what Mrs. Nasir was speaking to earlier. The concentrations in the edibles are so high that you don't have to eat the entire thing for someone to have a psychotic reaction. It can happen just with a small piece or with half. You don't know. And this is what is so dangerous for young people, because there seems to be a perception that it's okay. And in drug control, when perception of harm is down, use is usually up.
Yes.
And we have heard that there are parents who have ordered marijuana brownies and marijuana cookies for their children's parties and limes. You know, yes, we have heard that.
Crazy.
Yeah, we have heard that.
Carrie?
And
I'm astounded.
yeah,
Wow.
we have heard that.
Wow.
And so if you ordered this, you don't know all of the children who are coming. You don't know what their tolerance levels are, so that you can send your child off to this lime by a friend, and next thing you get a call saying your child is in the hospital having some kind of psychotic reaction to what they've eaten. Okay, and as Mrs. Nasir pointed out, some of these things are submitted by schools.
Yes. Yes.
It's being sold in schools
Yes.
by students.
Or
they might have a cake sale in school. And we've had principals now have to rush the child to hospital and go see some of the cakes that have been sold in the schools and bring them to us to test. And sure enough, they're positive for the THC component.
What type of damage do you have recorded to the brain of adolescents when it comes to the THC?
Yes. The use of any drug, let me just say that. THC is just one of them.
One of many.
But alcohol, any drug that has a psychoactive effect will have an effect on the brain.
Right.
The collective scientific wisdom is that if you don't use before the age of 24, you give the brain a chance to fully mature.
Right.
Because the brain is usually mature by 24. So that would be the baseline for use. And if you can stay off of use until you're 24, the likelihood of starting is very, very low. Right. So that's the first thing. But however, with the different drugs, of course, memory is impacted. You stunt the development of the brain. So, and adolescents are in the process of getting their education.
Right.
So if your memory is impacted, then the likelihood of you doing well is going to be compromised.
Right.
And this whole concept and it's a fallacy that people smoke marijuana and get smarter. That doesn't happen.
Well, I've heard that if people use DMT and
What
become
is
more
DMT?
creative. Okay.
I've heard the name of that.
I've heard the
before.
name. I don't know exactly what it is.
Dimethyltryptamine.
Maybe it's one of the 20 that you guys
No, it's not.
have. It's
yeah,
not. It was
it's not
21. Okay. 21. Very quickly, before we wrap up, you mentioned vaping. Talk
Right.
to us about vaping.
Okay, so vaping, when vaping was first introduced, it was introduced as a smoking cessation alternative, right? What has happened over time is that the substances used in the vaping devices have evolved to include marijuana derivatives.
Because wasn't vaping something with apple? I'm probably mixing it up with shisha. What's the difference between
I
vaping
guess
and?
it's a similar concept,
Okay.
but it's not combusted. It's rather heated, and you
Right.
inhale a vapor.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the vaping, what has happened over time is that vaping has taken on a whole new, expanded set of items that have been used and substances that are being used in the vaping device.
Yes.
And so now the Centers for Disease Control has identified a number of issues, health issues that have come about as a result of vaping, and there have even been deaths as a result of that. So we want to sound that note of caution
Yes.
on the vaping, because you would know that we now have quite a few vape shops in Trinidad and Tobago, and we want to sound that note of caution to parents and to anybody who is using vaping devices.
So we are really going to have to talk to the schools,
Yes.
to the parents, and to the wider community.
That's right.
Any final comments that you want to put out there as a sounder?
You want to have a lot of caution when you're going to parties as to what you are consuming, what anyone is putting into your drink. You can, Trinidad has been known as a party capital. We don't need pills to have a good time. We can enjoy ourselves without any additives.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think we need a full campaign, a clean, keep it clean campaign.
That's right.
Yeah, to make it cool again.
Yes, it's okay
Suddenly
to
it's
just enjoy it.
everywhere
Yeah.
you go.
And that was our concern. The amount we're seeing, the different types and the strength of them. We don't need drugs to have a good time.
I absolutely endorse that. Thank you so much, Michelle Nasir, Deputy Director, Forensic Sciences Center, and Esther Best, Manager of the National Drug Council. Wow, Carrie, after that, we need a feel-good moment, don't we?
And not with drugs.
And nothing to do with drugs, right, Carrie?